Why is this scene so scary?
먹다가
Emetophobia is the irrational fear of eyes. To be more specific, getting something stuck in your eye and being too scared to take it out, or being stared at for too long, or even taking your eye drops can be a harrowing task. Basically anything and everything to do with eyes. Some symptoms that can follow being triggered are panic attacks, intense sweating, shakiness, anxiety, fear. Think back to all the times you've accidentally made eye contact with a stranger. Imagine yourself in a mall close to closing hours sitting at a bench. You look over to your right and meet the eyes of a stranger looking at you. Yet they don't stop staring. The eyes are a complex set of organs, both mechanically and, more importantly, psychologically. You see, you must have heard the phrase, the eyes are the windows to the soul, at some point in your life. To that, there's some merit to it. You can tell a lot about a person by just their eyes, whether they're telling the truth, being sincere, or hiding true intentions. There are also little implications the brain can pick up on from someone's eyes. Most notably, wide eyes. Much like when animals bare their teeth in self-defense, ready to strike at any potential threat, it's a way for us to know the animal is scared and uncomfortable by our presence. A clear red flag that anyone can instantly recognize as, "Don't fuck with me." It clearly doesn't take much brain power to come to that conclusion. The brain needs to deduce danger as fast as possible, and the more minute details that can set off the brain's internal alarms, the better. The eyes have the ability to betray by being the most truthful, one which way is by the amount of sclera someone displays, that being the whites of the eyes. If someone comes up to you with a wide-eyed expression, right then and there something is wrong. You'd be uneasy to engage with this person, much less trust anything they might say. Animals don't smile without a reason to. Likewise, people don't go wide-eyed for no reason. The brain translates wide eyes as either the person being surprised or afraid in a social setting. What I'm interested in, though, is the fear aspect. A really unsettling horror movie trick I love seeing is wide eyes. Whether it be the protagonist staring in total fear at something off-screen, or the antagonist staring the viewer down. It never fails to bring about a complete sense of discomfort whenever it's used in horror media. It also doesn't have to be conventional eyes either, like in the case of Portrait of God. This is a short film by Dylan Clark, and if you haven't seen it, I recommend watching it for yourself and return to this video after. It's only 7 minutes long and it'll give you a little fright. In the short film, we're introduced to a girl rehearsing a presentation on this Portrait of God, a painting said to display what God looks like. Come to find out, though, it appears to be nothing. But audio recordings of people say the opposite. They see a figure smiling at them with big glinting eyes. And if your eyes started to wander around this next scene, you might have gotten a glimpse of God. Just two eyes in the dark staring at us. Already, this short film deals with the concept of sight, not being able to see something that other people claim to see. And at the end, our protagonist finally gets her wish, eyes wide, beholding the beautiful image of God. But why are eyes scary, even just a pair of little lights appearing to be eyes, as if the pupils and sclera have swapped their respective hues? It could be due to some innate primal fear, something baked into the human mind. You see, fear resides in the amygdala. Whenever you're startled or met with a jump scare, this area of the brain is firing off. Researchers at the University of Wisconsin studied the effects of the amount of sclera shown to volunteers. They would quickly flash images of black and white surprised eyes in between images of people smiling where the amount of sclera was minimal. What they found was the amygdala activated more significantly to surprised eyes, where the amount of sclera was more exposed. This also explains why seeing a look of wide eyes from another person, let's say a friend, will almost certainly put the same expression on your own face.
Mom, what are you doing?
What could they have seen that warrants a look of wide eyes? Fear is contagious in that sense. On that same note, when protagonists in horror view something off-screen with wide eyes, and we the viewer are given few details of the subject, the mind is now given the opportunity to conjure up the most horrifying, frightening image possible of whatever the protagonist is watching. The wide eyes in this sense are what tip us off and invite us to share in the protagonist's fear. What could they possibly be looking at that's so horrible that they would have an expression of absolute distress in their eyes? This only works, however, if we as the viewer are shown just enough of the monster, entity, malevolent spirit as a way to guide our minds in an efficient direction that will bring out the viewer's most creative ideas of what horror is to them. So looking back on the Portrait of God, it's easy to see why the eyes are scary. Even though we only see the pupils, smile, and partial figure of God, What we're left with is a guideline that can help steer our imagination. It also helps that the basis of the horror is religious, and if you know anything about Christianity, God made man in his image. So why is God seen to have glowing pupils with seemingly no eyelids, forever in a wide-eyed expression? The same expression our protagonist is left with after witnessing God's blinding light. What did she see that she can't take her gaze off of? While we can see the protagonist's sclera, you might think the figure doesn't have any, so the amygdala shouldn't be firing, so no fear. However, in the same experiment, the researchers inverted the colors of the black and white images so that the sclera was black and the pupils were white, and they recorded the same amount of amygdala activation. It doesn't matter if the hues of the eyes are inverted, the brain will still translate this as wide eyes. Fear-inducing eyes. I'd like to now transition into the notable and commonly known Kubrick stare. A stare like no other, trademarked by Stanley Kubrick, is depicted as a character with their head slightly tilted down and eyes looking up through their brow. A technique in film to provoke the sense that the character is absolutely far gone, completely deranged. A sort of malevolence that the stare emits that something terrible is mere seconds away from happening. This stare has the same properties of tipping off the amygdala, as we can see a fair amount of sclera to be seen. However, the Kubrick stare gives off more of an evil undertone rather than straight horror. It's still scary, but in a different sense. If I saw this next figure I'm about to show at the end of my hallway, I'd be scared shitless, stopped in my tracks, wondering if I'm hallucinating, praying I'm not losing my mind. While if I saw Jack Nicholson staring me down, I fear for my life. The same can be said about the parasite cake scene from the beginning of this video. The slow creep up from the bottom of the screen, too dark to really know what you're looking at until you see the whites of his eyes. The difference here is that there is no head tilt, but still achieves the same feeling of uncertainty in the character's sanity. We don't know if he plans to harm Da Song. All we know is that this has to be a setup for a Chekhov's gun. A seemingly small, unimportant detail that as the movie continues becomes a greater threat. From those eyes we question Jung Se's sanity. Maybe he is deranged or on the breaking point of committing something heinous later in the movie. Eyes can also give off the idea that whoever's looking through them is not the person we once knew, as if they've been possessed or in a dreamlike state, sleepwalking. We all know how terrifying sleepwalkers can be if you ever experienced one, as if someone else has taken control of their body or on autopilot. Trying to talk to them will only result in responses with incoherent sentences that make no sense, all with a glazed look in their eye as they walk through you, barely acknowledging your existence. Anything but a normal human interaction. Which is why when watching a horror movie, I love feeling uncomfortable and uneasy at what's going to happen next, and seeing the wide eyes of a person or thing will always have a terrifying effect as well as signal to me what's to come. There are also other factors that can further the effect of wide eyes. One such factor is abnormal body movement. This specific scene from the 2001 movie, but there's no denying that witnessing someone's or something's wide eyes will put me on alert. Seeing an expression like that isn't a normal occurrence, especially when it lasts longer than usual. Being presented with wide eyes provides an animalistic response to feel like something is wrong or that a dangerous threat is nearby. It will trigger that flight or flight response because all the brain knows is that something is not right. It's no shocker that creepypasta writers, as an example, create their monsters with a wide-eyed, seemingly sclera-full expression. It's an easy way to draw someone's attention when the expression will no doubt trigger that little fear center in the brain. Pull up that one monkey picture. Yeah. With some final words, you could say, there's more to this than meets the eye. Alright, that's it. Thank you for watching, and consider subscribing to fuel these video endeavors of mine. And I hope to see you in my next hyperfixation.